for a while and not having another human that's bantering with me. So if I seem awkward, that's because I am. So thanks for being here and listening, maybe. Yeah, and if you see anybody else coming through, there's people here. Say hi. This is Jessica. Hi. And then this is Coco. Coco. Hey. All right. So we are all in quarantine together, and haven't had much contact with the outside world. I assume most of us here are experiencing a similar reality. So yeah, ironically, here we are. I'm talking to you guys about your Independence Day, which is ironic because nobody in their right mind would ask me to talk about Independence Day in my country. So somehow I got sucked into becoming obsessed with your history, and spent too many years writing a book about it and learning about it. So now I guess I'm supposed to be able to talk about it. So that said, I am grateful that I did find a reason to start caring about your culture, because I find it significantly more interesting than my own. And because of it, I have gotten to meet tons of amazing people around the world, and a lot of amazing Greek humans are now a part of my family. So I'm blessed for that. And to add to the whole irony of not only an American guy talking to you about your Independence Day, but also in this time where we probably have had the least amount of freedom since 200 years ago. So it's all kind of coming together in this very surreal time, right on the eve of celebrating the bicentennial of your revolution. So here we are, having less freedom than we've ever had in my lifetime, and I assume all of yours, at the time that it is your Independence Day, and right before we're all gearing up to have the biggest celebration of your independence. So what is going on here in the world, I guess is the question. So that said, in opening up this subject of our current world quarantine and the, coronial life as it has become, I would just say sending love to everyone, and hope everybody's being healthy and safe, and we gotta get through this, so be as intelligent as possible. If you've heard enough of that, I don't probably need to tell you about hand washing. So what if you haven't heard about hand washing? We're talking about it a lot these days. So anyway, yeah, so I was actually supposed to be in Greece right now, having these talks and having events and hanging out, having drinks with you. I was supposed to be there now pretty much through May. And as everybody else's lives changed, so did mine. And so now we're here and we're all making these sacrifices, and we make these sacrifices, I think, because we're under the illusion that we're helping other people. We're trying to sacrifice our own freedoms right now for the sake of others, to help people heal and give time for hospitals to not be so pounded, and hopefully find treatments and all of this stuff. In a big way, our heroism of right now is making these sacrifices in the same way we had heroes of the past put their life in challenged places and at risk to bring independence to a country. We're being heroes in a different manner at this time by giving up some of our comforts and conveniences to try to help others in the long run. So but we'll talk more about heroes, I guess, as I go. All right. Well, by the way, if anybody else is out there and wants to have a drink, please join me, because this is very just alone here. All right. So, all right, that's a good start, I think. So 9 a.m. drink for me, celebrating you. So, all right, so let's talk about Greece and freedom and our freedom and all of this stuff, right? So, okay, let's see, what have I got? I put a few thoughts down here. What were they? Let's see. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, to add to all of this, to make this quarantine time even more exciting, I quit smoking because I've been afraid to, drown in my lung juice that comes with coronavirus. So for the people here stuck with me in quarantine, it's a real joy. So now I'm here, I can't go out, and I'm not smoking as well. So it's a real good time. So, all right, I'm going to try to stay focused. So, all right, when I started understanding your revolution and the first thing that I concluded is, after reading a whole bunch of information, I came to the reality that it all kind of meant nothing. I was reading and reading and reading, and just like when I was in school learning history, it nothing meant anything, and it didn't register in any way. And I kept taking notes and breaking it down, and I finally realized that most history is told in a very data-driven manner. It's not very humanized. And in order to care about something or to kind of understand something, you need to make it more human so that you can kind of relate to a circumstance. So I'm reading all these things, and I'm finding out on this date, Kallikatronus met Kariskakis, and they went to Nafplion to talk about some shit that was real important. And then we jumped to the next period of time and the next period of time for each action, but nothing meant anything. So I started to have to try and find a way to make it mean something. And so the only way that I could make it mean something was to find a way to put myself inside of the experience. If, like, right now, if we take what's going on here, just like if you're reading about the Spanish flu of 1918 or whatever, it's a lot of bits of information, but you don't really necessarily stop and have a picture of it and feel what life might have been inside of it. And it's the same right now. If somebody reads 50 or 100 years from now about this coronial moment and started to try to understand it, unless there's lots of video and pictures and images that really bring it to life for you, it's not going to be alive. So when I started to try to figure out how to have a bigger understanding of the elements that happen in your country, I started to slow down, and I created pictures in my head. So for instance, if I started to imagine being a Suliot in Zalongo and having my village under attack. And so I would take very long showers, and I would close my eyes, and I would basically just sit there and start to put little pieces together to start to feel what it might have been like to be in my village in the hills and be under attack. And then you start putting pieces together. So you're in Zalongo, and your village is under attack, and you hide in the monastery, and you've got a corner, and outside the door you start hearing screaming and the chaos that comes on when someone comes to slaughter your village. And if you start piecing each bit together until you start to feel it a little bit alive inside you, it starts to mean something. And I think that this is the difference of why we watch a film like, Gladiator or Braveheart or 300, and we start to place meaning on these historic events. Even if the movie is true or not true, it brings it to life for us. So as you're envisioning these moments, you start to live them out inside of you, right? So you're hearing gunshots and horses passing, and finally they're breaking down the door, and you're in it, and you feel the tension of the space and yourself, and you imagine your child. And at some point they're going to break down the door, and you have to decide to go out the back door, which now will put you out in the world of chaos. And so you build the pieces until you feel it in your body and it becomes more alive. And so then you start thinking, okay, you get up to that cliff in Zalongo, and you say, what must life be like in this moment, where you come to the conclusion that it's a better option to take your child and jump off of a cliff, as opposed to being captured by the enemy, and start to really absorb those moments in that reality. And if you start to do that in some of these stories that you've been told about your history, and you really put yourself in that first person position, it can really help it start to mean something more. And that's basically what I did for way too many moments of your history, until it started to mean something. When I see people putting questions down, I'll get to those in a second, as I finished this way too long banter. So anyway, as you start to get to this point where you realize how bad must things in your life get to push you to the point where you finally make that decision. If it's the same right now. If we look and we apply these same themes and concepts to what we're facing right now, we're in a place where we have given up all of these freedoms. There's a pandemic that we hear about. And basically overnight, we have surrendered these freedoms for the concept of safety and the greater good, to save the lives of these people who are much more vulnerable, apparently, than we are. So we're willingly giving up these freedoms. Now, put yourself in a position 200 years ago where it was not willingly, but you were forced to live like this. What if this was our new normal? And leaving your house without permission, I guess you guys are having a text system that you have to get permission. We don't have that yet here. So what if you couldn't do this, and you couldn't leave your house without permission for good, and your food supply was not decided upon you, but it was whatever they gave you for this moment, and what you could do in your day or what you could eat was no longer your choice, or where you spent your time or who you could talk to. And this reality, if all of a sudden this was to shift just slightly, if our current situation just shifted a little bit, where it was no longer our leaders, instead of your Greek government, this other form of government came in, and they were the new coronial people that came and took over our place, and they started killing our people. And the people that didn't stay in quarantine and stay in your home started being killed by this new government. This is not far from what life would have been like prior to freedom. And even if you take it down to right now, we're not seeing much, but we're hearing bits. We hear little bits on the news about so much happening that's bad, but we're not really seeing it in a first person position. Well, it's just the same. If you go back 200 years, you got bits of information from whoever came into town. So there are really a lot of similarities going on with what life could have been like then and now. Now, this is live for coronavirus. Like, so right now it's an invisible virus, as opposed to people coming in with guns and force and imposing fear. But it's the same in the sense that at some point things get bad enough, right? You have enough freedoms taken away, and the quality of life gets so bad that the uncertainty level rises to such a high level that you get pushed to the point where you say, it's not worth living like this. The uncertainty is too much. The quality of life is too bad. I won't accept it anymore. And this is where you get turned into being a victim that stands up to become a hero, in a sense. When things get bad enough that losing your life is no longer the driving factor. Knowing that you may be killed becomes irrelevant because it's more important to try to change your life situation. So if you just take the same conditioning that we're going through now and you place it back on, the time of Ottoman rule, and you think, okay, these people that we read about, the Kolokotronuses and the Marcos Patserases and the Karaskakses and on and on and on, and all of the people's names that I will say very badly. We have these ideas of heroes, and heroes are painted in this very one-dimensional way. Basically, they're almost given this superhuman quality, something that is definitely different than me. It's someone else that's gifted with this ease of fearlessness, and they know how to lead, and they're not afraid, and all of that is bullshit. And I think we need to be careful, whether it's in books or telling stories, how we portray heroes, because when you grow up thinking of heroes as these superhuman things, what it sort of tells you is this is something other than you, and you're not that, because that has an easier time standing up against fear and having courage. But the truth is that all of these heroes that we read about come from the same space that we are in now. The hero is just as human or more, and they have just as much fear. And what happens is they get pushed up to the point where they're no longer willing to suffer, and they're no longer willing to let the people they care about suffer. So they have no choice but to stand up against something. For instance, right now, we are being heroes by trying to sacrifice our freedoms to help others. We are hoping and praying that heroes come from all sides, from doctors and nurses and scientists. We're begging them to be heroes right now, and they're going in and putting themselves in harm's way for the greater good. There's heroes at all different levels. Right now, you could say Elon Musk is a hero because he's repurposed his company to make ventilators, and so forth and so on. And you can go down the list down to us just being here. You be a hero by making your kid smile today, and the people that are stuck with you, keeping their spirits up. Like, that's being a hero right now. We actually need to change the way we perceive heroes and understand that we are the heroes every day, and we need that. So all right, so I've been ranting a lot on my own here, but so let me look at what people are saying. All right, so starting up here, why did I choose Marcos Patseros? Well, initially it was a very challenging decision to come to, because there's so many people and so many events and so many years, and it's very sprawling. And obviously you start reading about Kolokotronis, and you start to think, well, obviously I should tell his story. But then I came to the conclusion that he was already older by the time we got to 1821, where Marcos Batseris was still younger. And I really honed in on this element of the story that was focused on Ali Pasha, and how Ali Pasha's agenda with the Sullied people opened up what I hypothetically see as an opening. He opened this hole because he was focused on his agenda, as opposed to being focused on what the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire was wanting to do with Greece. So because Ali had his agenda and he was focused on these other things and dealing with Sully and whatnot, he wasn't following orders of the Sultan, which opened up the capacity for Greece to make a bigger movement. So I liked this part of the storyline, and having someone young enough to grow up as a child right around this time, to be born into this level of chaos and humanize this reality as a child being born into a village that is always under attack. It goes back to what I was saying earlier about creating a human story that I could relate to, and that becomes the most important part is in telling a story, I think, is finding how you connect to it, and then it becomes more real and more alive to you. Let's see, if I remember correctly, you visited original locations. How important was that? Okay, so to put yourself into a position of someone who lived 200 years ago. Okay, so if I didn't come and travel all around Greece, I couldn't have written the book, because I had no real concept of what these locations looked like and what they felt like. And when I came there, it was the middle of winter and nobody was there. So I would be in these hills or on these islands completely alone. And I could stand there and paint a picture in my mind and sit there and feel it happening around me. And so it was crucial to go and spend time in all of these real places. Otherwise, it would have just been me projecting ideas blindly on a reality that I didn't understand. Okay, let's see. Is this live for coronavirus? This is live for coronavirus. I am doing this for the coronavirus. I am saying coronavirus. Maybe you can hang out and have a drink and stop bringing fear to our lives, and somehow we can just become friends. If you're up for that. Yes, an enemy that we are living with is invisible. That's the craziness. But I think, in a sense, aside from a few of the people that would be the soldiers, back in the time, 200 years ago, the Sultan and all the ideas of the leaders were really invisible. I'm sure most humans never saw them. So in a sense, it's just listening to information that sounds scary from people that you're hearing about. It's like our version of the news, which I don't know what it's like in your country, but in our country, it's fucking atrocious and dangerous, because you really have two teams. The two teams of whatever, CNN and Fox, or Democrat and Republican, it's such a entertainment driven onslaught of slogans that the news agenda is just based on the party. So you can take any event that's going on in the world, and I can already tell you, well, this news channel is going to twist it this way, and this one's going to twist it this way, because this one really likes Trump, and Trump doesn't want to accept that the economy is bad, so they're going to diminish the coronavirus. And this one is getting information and dealing with it, what they think of as logically, and saying, oh, this is dangerous. And they're going the other direction, where they're turning up the fear like a little, maybe sometimes too much. So I'm not sure but the reason I'm saying that is because we're always, in every situation that is a foreign entity, it is an invisible enemy. Whether it's talking about China or Russia or to other countries talking about the US, I don't see these people. I see pictures of Putin or but it really is an invisible enemy, I think, almost everywhere, unless you're in a street fight. So let's see. All right, what's it? Did I have any negative reactions about your work? Did you have any negative reactions about your work? And I said, because we Greeks live our history many times more than we should without knowing all the details. We had to know, should know. Okay, I think, let's see, what that means is to me, without knowing that. So, look, anytime that you're going to do anything that has to do with telling a story about something real, you are placing yourself in a position to be attacked. 100%, no matter what version of it you do, you will be attacked. And so at some point, you have to just decide to tell the story that you want to tell, that you think is important to conveying the meaning that you are going to tell. You try to do something like tell a historic event, you put yourself through so much pain of researching and learning. But what you realize is while you're doing this research, a history book is no more than a comic book, is no more than a documentary, is a fictional story in a movie. Every single version of information that you are reading is written by someone who most of the time wasn't there. And even if they were there, they have a bias and they only are seeing a part of the story. So there is no history book that is honest or accurate. And you have to start off with that reality, because especially when you're talking about 100 years ago or 200 years ago or 2,000 years ago, you can try to put together an account, but you're doing it speculatively based on data from someone else that was just like you, trying to write stuff down, hoping that it was true, or just filling in the blanks that weren't true. So to really do research about history, you have to put so much time in to read so many different volumes of information, and then try to be a detective and piece together what might have been true, and fill in all of the blanks and all of the holes, and then decipher what each person's bias is that wrote about it, so you can understand what their agenda is. So you're never gonna know all the truth of what the history is, no matter how much you read, because it really isn't true. So you have to do the work to do the best you can to make sense of it. So that makes doing anything historical, or even if you're just retelling a true story that happened last week, it's equally difficult, because there's too many perspectives that you're not going to ever have, and you're only getting information. So I think, opening yourself up to that sort of torment just comes with the job of doing something about a real event in life. And so you just take it accordingly, and you don't worry about those people that are bitching about what you're doing right or wrong. Plenty of people bitch about the cover of the book before they even understand why the cover is what it is. So let's see. So do you feel you had to keep equal distance between Greek strength and outsider, so to speak, or was the situation more clear cut, given that it was a revolution for the sake of fair? Well, look, obviously with this, I really studied the Greek perspective of it much more so than the Turkish perspective. So if I really did as much research from the Turkish side of things as I did to the Greek things, maybe I would have told a different story. So it wasn't that I kept an equal distance. I totally studied the Greek side of it. But you come in with a bias already, knowing that it is a revolution, and that you're coming from a nation that was oppressed and taken over by an empire, And somehow this little tiny group of people overtook this big, massive empire. So I think there is something very sexy about that. It doesn't happen almost ever. And that alone is enough to make me wonder why nobody knows about this outside of Greece and Turkey. Let's see. The graphic novel, apart from being amazing art, really put me in the mentality of studying recent history, which I never did before. I think it's the least to do in order to commemorate our father. Really put me. Okay. Well, I'm glad I put lots of you to shame, that I did more for your country than you have. But I promise you have probably done way more for my country than I have. I think that's just a part of being from where you're from. You know, we mostly don't like each other here. We mostly don't like other Americans. I mean, we love them, but we don't like any of them. So I think at the same time, I'm the most critical about my culture. I'm the most critical about my government. I'm the most critical about everything I think that we do wrong to the world. And a lot of times it's painful to be an American guy because you grow up here and you don't understand. And as you get older, you realize what the United States has done to negative ways as well as positive ways. But that's a whole long discussion. So don't feel bad that I put you to shame doing more for your country. I suck for my country. Let's see, how much of the creation of Sunscape has affected the life and thoughts of an American guy? Okay, so how did making this book affect my thoughts? The idea of living during that time and waking up as a child into a world that's so full of uncertainty. What it kind of made me realize is right now I live in an existence of luxury problems. My uncertainty is all psychological. And so when I really got thoughtful and thinking, oh wow, these people grew up in a time where your life survival was uncertain, and every day you'd get up and wonder if today was going to be okay, and you'd wonder if today your mom was going to be okay because you had to leave to go do something with your father, and you hoped that nothing happened at home, and that when you got back your village wouldn't be devastated and everyone would be slaughtered. When you really take in that reality and think, what if today you are going to the supermarket to pick up food, but you're not sure that your people at home are going to be alive when you get back? If that was a daily part of your life, it really changed the way that you live. Where what has happened, I think, in our generation is when you live in a time of life and death uncertainty, you have that initial instinct that comes into your body that is a fight or flight instinct that fuels your existence. You either run or you fight. You know, it's that concept of built in. At that point in time, you're being chased by a gun. There's a real problem. It's a physical reality that's pointed at you, and you're either running or you're trying to attack the guy with the gun. And what we've done is we've turned that same physical sensation of fight or flight, of run and save my life, or fight to save my life, on our psychological reality. Do people like me? Am I good enough? Am I successful? Am I lovable? All of these psychological challenges that we impose on ourselves seem to have replaced the person with the gun, or like the bear in the wilderness that's coming to get you. We've done this to ourselves. And I think when I really absorbed the reality of what your people went through, and I put myself in the middle of it, it made me have to come to terms a little bit with how self-important I was and still make most of my days with my own mental challenges that have nothing to do with reality, and they're totally obsessive about myself. And when I get lost in making the whole world about myself, I am helpful to no one and I'm a hero to no one. And that's kind of the opposite of what I would like to be. And I think the more I started to learn about the reality of what these people went through, the more it gave me a real version of a role model. Even though I am fantasizing about what they really were, I fantasized about people who were living in such uncertainty that they would risk their own existence to bring a better life to others. And that makes me hopeful, and that gives me a direction that I would love to strive to achieve. Let's see. What point after learning about the Greek war did you decide it would make a good graphic novel? So initially my thought was not to make a graphic novel. Since I was a teenager, I worked in the TV and film industry. I started as an actor. I grew into being a writer and a director. So I always, I think of stories in terms of making a movie or a TV show. So initially I started writing it as a movie, and it got so big, so long, and so expensive that I was afraid that this would live in my computer like 50 other things that I've written and never have any life outside. And so after writing this way too big of a screenplay, came the idea of, let's bring this to life in a book, so that I can guarantee that it will live outside of my computer. And that's really how it got to that. But I guess the point that I started to be inspired by the Independence War was really, honestly, it came down to the point where I was focused on the Solliots and how they lived in the hills, and I saw myself in that situation, being under attack every day. And once I started to really understand that this little group of people overtook an empire, it started to really sink in. But it doesn't sink in until you really humanize that level of reality. It's like the equivalent today of, if a little town outside of Los Angeles that's like a little tiny little pile of people had a revolution and took over all of Los Angeles's 11 million people, like that would be crazy. And so that reality kicked in my head, and then I was just kind of mystified as to the fact that I had never heard about this revolution, and no one that I talked to that wasn't Greek had ever heard about it. So I was inspired to make people know about it. The Sons of Gas set up for a TV adaptation, as said yes. At a time where comics are now considered more and more of a springboard for a career on film or TV, do you think your work needs the validation of an adaptation, or would you be content with the medium of comics on its own? Like I say, look, I am very appreciative that the book exists. And if there's nothing more that happens with it, I will be content. I am content. It doesn't mean I don't want it to be a lot more. Yes, I have written the screenplay that's way too thick, and I have now adapted that to be a 7-episode TV series. So will I feel significantly more content in my life if that gets made? Yes, I would definitely, I would continue to strive to be a non-smoking person, let's say, because the longer that doesn't exist, the more I'm going to want to smoke and drink, which I haven't been drinking enough during this time. I just keep talking. All right, anybody else? Is there a Greek edition? There will be a Greek edition. We have been talking with company in Greece to execute that, and we were supposed to be starting that right around now. Just depends if the corona life will slow it down, but I don't think so. I think it'll come soon. Is there anything else anyone would like to ask about anything in the world? Do I see? There is definitely a 300 influence. I think the size of the book is very similar, and the scope of the widescreen sort of pages is very much like 300. I think there are significant differences to Sons of Chaos and 300. Obviously, 300 is, I think, executed very well, and it's about a single battle that defies all odds and reality, and it's 2,000 years ago, and it's a beautiful, amazing thing, where Sons of Chaos is obviously a long, sprawling story over the course of someone's lifetime, with many battles and many layers and many characters. It's much more of a psychologically driven story about characters, where Frank Miller's is more of a battle sequence. But yes, there are hands down influential elements that come from Frank Miller. So what about you guys? How's it going over there in quarantine? Are you feeling okay? Anything? Oh, let's see. Are there discussions of movie series? Yes, there is a discussion about a TV series, but all meetings stopped weeks ago. All projects, all meetings, Netflix closed. Everyone that had a TV pilot or a TV show shooting, it was canceled. So everybody's just sitting here the same everywhere in the world. How much our freedom? That's a good question. How much of our freedom may be lost after coronavirus and what we're going through? I think it's going to be a strange transition to try to go back to normalcy. I think it's very dependent upon how long this continues and what else happens along the way. It is very, very possible that that if it ends quickly, we will go back to normalcy without too much freedom gone. There will be a different mindset, because I think this will influence everyone for the rest of their life who goes through this in some manner. If it goes on for too long, and there's so much talk right now of all these theories of different elements and 5G and all of this stuff that's going on, and the truth is we don't really know anything. We're all just kind of stuck in this. There's these rumors happening that there's going to be a 10-day blackout of all social media starting April 1st. There's all of these things that are confusing right now. So it's like this big, massive vat of uncertainty. What kind of things will change is, I think that we will always give up more of our freedoms to try to be safe, to try to know that we're going to be okay. We're willing to sacrifice certain things for the greater good if we think that we're going to be safer from it. Like after 9/11, before 9/11, there was no airport security. You went and you got on a plane, and all of your friends and family could walk up to the gate and be with you and hug, and you got on the plane. That all changed, and initially everybody complained about it, but we were happy to give that up. We gave up all of our information to the TSA and the the governments to say, here I am, you can track me more. Here's all of the stuff. I'm willing to give you all of the information about me, where I am, so that I can continue to fly and travel safe. And I think we're going to do the same here. I think there will probably be different type of monitoring devices. I think over the course of time, your phone, just like a Fitbit, will become a device that monitors you. And it will take your temperature. It will have a record of when you've been sick. It will track where you go. This will help in the larger picture of life control the next epidemic that this is what typically happens. Right now, we come in totally underprepared. We're not prepared for this. This big thing happens and everybody's trying to catch up. Then what happens is you overcorrect. So once this is all gone and we're back to normalcy, there'll be an overcorrection where now, you're forced to have a vaccination. You're forced to put this thing in your phone and your passport that identifies you and gives all of your health history and tells everybody what you've been through and which countries you've been through. There'll be an overcorrection, which takes away more freedoms. So how intensely that overcorrection is to make up for how unprepared we were for this is hard to predict. But it will be an overcorrection, and we will be giving up more of our freedoms. We will probably, unless the whole world is taken over by all of these theories and things, go back to a level of normalcy, but it'll be a different version of normalcy. Even right now, when I go for a walk, I see a person coming, and I start crossing in the street and be walking in the middle of the street to stay away from them, because each person now is a threat to you. It's such a strange equation that now we are looking at everyone like a possible enemy. and it's insane. So undoing that and feeling safe again, coming close to someone and to shake their hand and give them a hug and go back to seeing them as a friend or another human will be a little bit challenging for a minute. And I hope that we can push through that, because I think there's also the added challenge of the psychosomatic element of things, where we're so hyper aware right now. Every time I feel something in my throat or if I have a feeling in my body, I go into a hyper aware state thinking, oh, fuck, do I have it? Do I have it? Is it going to get me? So we're going to be so hyper aware, and we're going to demonize everyone around us as the possible enemy. So I think we have such a strong mental influence of things that if we go back to like a loving space, if we have the capacity to look at each other as we are stronger together, and mentally we change our viewpoint back to uniting and unifying our efforts, we will be stronger, and we will overcome disease, and we will overcome epidemics much easier than coming from a place of fear and psychological, psychosomatically imposed illness that we will create for ourselves. So we got to find a way to go back to remembering, like, come on, everybody, we are the team, we're in this together, and we're stronger together, and approach this with love as opposed to fear. And chances are it might go a little bit better. And even if it doesn't, it'll be more enjoyable. Let's see. We're experiencing now will ever affect technology, every life, meaning coronavirus. Most of us are working remotely, connect with our friends digitally. Your collaboration, the arts of this book. Yeah, okay. So the question was basically, when making the book of Sons of Chaos, me and Ale, he's in Argentina and I've been in Los Angeles. So we made this entire book together without ever being together. We met one time prior to us really working much together. And the entire book was made through notes and talks like this. And now add to the equation that he speaks Spanish, I speak English. My Spanish is, it's kind of like a little bit of a piece of shit. It's not a big piece of shit, but it's a little piece of shit. And his English was like a little bigger piece of shit. So it was like a little bit better than my Spanish. So it was very difficult. And And many times he wanted to punch me because he would put all this time in, and he worked with ink. Everything was ink, not digital. So he'd ink these whole drawings and pages, and I'd go, "Oh no, we're not getting the story point across in this page. We need a panel like this." And I'm grateful that I'm still alive because I kept pushing him to accommodate my story wishes. And there's a point where I just had to stop. But the point is yes, we are adjusting to this way of life and this way of work for a long time now. We've been adjusting to working remotely, and I think in some situations it's really wonderful. In other situations, I think the book would have been so much better if he and I would have been together every day, because by not being together, I had to accept certain things that he would do that maybe didn't tell the story as much as I wanted, but I didn't communicate better what I wanted on the front end. And so at a point, you have to sacrifice the work to keep the person happy. And then you pick your times of when you can push for more, and you pick your times of when it's okay to accept something how it is, even if it's different than what you want. So I think in this time of living in quarantine and being forced to work remotely and have this talk like this as opposed to us being in person having a drink together, I would rather fucking be there with you guys talking and answering each question and getting the feeling of knowing you and understanding how I could give you information that's interesting to you. I think it's always going to be better in person. But there is a convenience factor that we can do things like this. Like you said, obviously the book doesn't suck, and it was made completely remote, the two of us, but it would have been better. Our relationship would have grown more, which would have made us push each other more, and we would have fought together. And we, there's no comparison as working with humans connected. It's always going to be better. But is it a bonus that technology allows us to do this? Yeah, it's great. It's great, but it's not my favorite. So let's see. Catching up on comics. Honestly, since I've been in quarantine, I have not been able to slow down and really disconnect from the uncertainty of what we're facing. So the capacity to really sit and enjoy reading something fictional, I haven't been capable. I've been more obsessive about trying to understand what's going on, and my capacity to kind of shut down and be like, I'm going to take in this book or this comic book or even movies. I haven't really been able to do that. I think I'm still too high strung and curious. But if this goes on for a significant amount of time, I will be eventually just surrendering to it, and then I will get into video games more and comic books and reading and even writing. Maybe, like, it's been impossible for me to want to write anything because my brain can't relax. So is that it, everyone? Any other questions? Anything I can help you in your life about? You need like a therapy session or anything? I mean, it's evening now. It's nighttime. We could be going out. We're here. It's like the sun's just up, and yet I'm drinking. All right. Yeah. Cheers to you. Well, look, I am sending love to all of you and to all of your people who I hope are all healthy And let's keep hoping that it stays a distant, invisible voice and that it doesn't get too close to home. And we all need to just kind of be heroes together in some way to get through this shit. It's in reality, it's a fucking nightmare to be forced to live like this for an indefinite period of time. And so the best thing we can do is try to like stay connected to one another, stay positive, keep the people around you laughing and smiling. Drink if that helps it. Don't drink so much that it makes you awful. We can get through this. If they could fucking take on an empire, we can take on this invisible little fucking space virus that's invisibly coming in and fuck that thing. We can get this shit, no problem. The Ottoman Empire, this is nothing. All right, so go have fun. I hope to see you all soon, because as soon as this shit opens up, I will be coming to Greece and we will hang out. So stay in touch with me, send messages. You can befriend me on Facebook and stuff if you're not already. And I miss you guys, and I will definitely be coming there later this year as soon as we're allowed. Okay, so stay in touch. Please message me. Okay. Thank you so much to all of you too. All right, send me shit. Keep me informed. Tell me what's going on with you guys. Okay. I would really appreciate it. Thanasis Compound. No, I have not read that. No, I don't get exposed to much over here. Do you want to message me information about it? You can send it to my here's my Instagram is yeah, send me stuff. Oh wait, let's see. What? Okay, I guess that's it. All right, bye everyone.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for attending, and hope to see you soon in Greece.
You too.
Okay, take care everyone.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.